Hello and welcome. Today we are going to be discussing which social media channel that you should be on for your business. As always, here on the Caslogy Digital Marketing Podcast, we have an industry expert who will offer you their insights and advice. So without further ado, let's introduce them.
Strategy, market research, email, marketing plan,
display ads,
PPC, content, social media, social ads, SEO. Welcome to the Caslogy Digital Marketing Podcast.
So hello and welcome to Sam Flynn, social media trainer. Hi Sam, how are you doing? You okay?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
All good?
I am good, yes. I'm very good, thank you. Just glad to be back to some normality and to be able to get out and deliver training and not just be doing it all through the screen. So yeah, all is good.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, how have you adjusted to this post-lockdown world now? I mean, are you kind of, I think I was relieved and I'm kind of happy, but it still feels like I'm in a dream of some sort. I don't know.
It really does. Yeah, no, I am 100% happy that we are back to normality. I am someone who detested lockdowns, to say the least. Stuck at home with my three girls, and my husband was what you might call one of the lucky ones who got to go out to work every day because he was in construction. So he got to leave the house every day, and I had to try and run a business with three young children at home, which was next to near impossible. So, gosh, yeah, I'm just so happy that things are returning to normal now and loving getting back and delivering training in person, because it's great that we can do all this online stuff. It's brilliant. Don't get me wrong. And I do a lot of online sessions still, but you just can't beat that face-to-face when it comes to training, I think.
No, absolutely. I think, like you say, sometimes you feed off the energy in the room and you get a sense of what's going on. So no, absolutely, can resonate with that. But I'm just thinking about the last time I saw you, because I think in the marketing world, like I feel like I know you because every now and again we'll exchange messages on Instagram or comment on each other's posts or just email each other or whatever it might be. But I think the last time I officially saw you in the flesh, I think we might have met Media City once, but the main thing I remember is that there was an event in Manchester. I can't remember, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. I think it was called literally the big social media event. It was at Lancashire Cricket Club, and it was just this huge event. Do you remember it?
I do, yes, I do remember it. I can tell you exactly how long ago it was because my middle daughter turned 7 in about a week's time, and she was about 3 weeks old when I spoke at that event. So it's nearly 7 years ago. And yeah, I actually opened the event. I was the first speaker on. Sadly, I couldn't stay for the whole thing. That really annoyed me, but because I had such a tiny little baby that I had to run home to, I literally went on the stage, did my talk and left. But it was such a huge deal for Manchester actually as well, because so many of the big social media conferences in the UK take place in London. So it was great to have this big social media event take place in the Northwest as well. It was a really, really good event.
Everything was just so good, and a lot of marketers were there, and I think like literally I think there was hundreds of tables, maybe 1,000 people. But yeah, I think you were like a real celebrity. You were like literally, I'm here for 45 minutes here and in and out. It was like
I've got to go on to my next engagement, which really was just coming home to feed my baby.
Yeah, but no, the one thing that stood out for me, obviously, was a social media event, so everything was social media related, but you used a word that I kind of loved. It was the first time I'd heard it, and I loved it. And I think it was called brandonality.
Brandonality, yeah.
Is that the word, wasn't it? And I just loved it.
People still relate me to brandonality. In fact, someone tagged me on a LinkedIn post the other day, tagged me in the comments and said, oh, you need the word brandonality that Sam Flynn came up with, because someone was talking about the personality of your brand. And it's exactly that. It is what is the personality of your brand, and that is your brandonality.
And I still remember it to this day, because I remember it was like really powerful, impactful. I think your profile picture was good, the bio, everything. I think there was something in the Manchester Evening News about you to like plug in the event, and because obviously you're a local person. And so when an event like that happened, and the people that were there, and obviously other people from Manchester in the social media digital marketing space, I think we kind of appreciated it. I went to it. I think it was like a 2-day event, and I remember every single part of it, but I just don't realise. I think we don't realise how lucky we were, but it's not happened again since. And I think it was biggest in the UK at the time, and a lot of big speakers from abroad came. So I think, I think we were really spoiled, and we really enjoyed it. So I suppose we got a lot out from it.
Yeah, great event.
Well, anyway, I suppose we could talk amongst ourselves for a while, but we'll hopefully give the audience some value from this and obviously talk about things that we want to talk about. So obviously social media being your speciality, you do training it, you speak in it, obviously, as we've just mentioned. I suppose I want to get straight into the crux of it really, is and ask really, as a business or as an individual, do we need to be on all social media channels? Because there's a lot of social media channels out there. It's not just Facebook, Twitter, etc. I suppose those technicians could say there's up to 30 channels actually.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, maybe there's 6 or 8 main ones,
Yeah.
but even then, it's a lot of work involved. So I suppose the question we could ask is, do you need to be on all of them?
Oh, and the short answer is thankfully no, because yeah, absolutely. I mean, trying to be on all of them is really actually a bad business decision because they all have different audiences for a start. So, you know, you're not going to be able to tap into every single audience on each of those platforms. And also, of course, they take time. So, especially if you're a small business owner and you're doing it yourself, if you've only got a finite amount of time to commit to social media and you're giving it to lots of different platforms, you're kind of going to do them all a little bit rather than really throw yourself into the ones that matter. And I think that's the key point, is to kind of go all in and give all your focus onto the platforms that actually are going to generate the most business for you. Because like for my business, it's definitely LinkedIn and Instagram generate the most business for me. So those are the platforms that I spend pretty much the most time on. And there's, you know, there's always these new shiny exciting ones cropping up, isn't there? Like when Clubhouse came out and it was all rooms and everyone jumped in there and let's get involved in Clubhouse. And I signed up and lasted about one day and thought, you know what, no, I haven't got the time right now or the capacity to be having another social media platform, and particularly one that I've got to go in and spend a lot of time speaking and engaging, you know, chatting to people on. I'm like, I just don't have the time. So yeah, the good and short answer is that no, you absolutely do not need to be on all the social media channels. And in fact, it probably for the majority of businesses would be a poor business decision to be on all of them.
Okay, so I mean that makes sense to me, and I like the idea of that. I mean, in terms of examples that you've said, that you're sticking to the channels that are bringing in you the, I suppose, the conversions or the engagement, or basically where people want to speak to you or your business.
Yeah.
So I mean, the example I use whenever I do my digital marketing training and we talk about this subject, I'll say, for example, Pinterest. Not everyone will know Pinterest. Maybe not every people have heard of Pinterest, but I would say that if I was a chef making ingredients, Pinterest would be really good because I want to show you the different stages of my journey. So here's the ingredients, here's this, here's that. And you expect to see a picture and then some read up about it, as if you would do it if you're reading through a cookbook or something. So I would say that Pinterest is really good for that, and that's the example I use. But there might be other channels that might not be related to your market. So would you say it's industry specific, I suppose, is what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, to a degree, yeah. There are some industries, of course, that could benefit from every platform. But certainly, you know, for example, if you're business to business, then chances are you're not going to generate huge volumes of business through Facebook. It's just not the main platform for business to business interaction, you know, and you'd be doing yourself a huge disservice if you weren't committing a lot of time to LinkedIn, which is a business to business platform. So yeah, for, you know, it definitely is industry specific to some degree, but I would say there probably are some industries that could benefit from every single channel in some way, especially if they've got different audiences within their business, different target markets. But yeah, for the majority, I think, you know, you really need to hone in on, okay, which platforms are the ones that are going to have the biggest impact in my business. You know, and I can't believe it sometimes actually when I'm delivering training to business businesses and they say they don't use LinkedIn. You're just like, you are missing the biggest opportunity ever by not being on LinkedIn. So yeah, you've definitely got to kind of pick and choose depending on where your audience is, I think.
Yeah, and I really like what you mentioned there about Facebook and LinkedIn, because when I'm on Facebook, I'm actually calling myself something else, because that is literally just friends and family. they don't really care about the marketing side of it. I mean, I'm sure everyone has a job or a career or something they're doing. They'd probably mention it on Facebook if it was something special. Maybe they got mentioned in the newspaper or they were on a billboard or it's like something like that friends would like to hear about. Maybe Facebook isn't business to businesses because I'm not in that zone. I'm thinking more about friends and family. If I see an advert for a T-shirt on Facebook, I'd probably buy a T-shirt, but I might be interested and it might just fit into me. But on LinkedIn, I'm in a different zone. I'm thinking about work. I'm maybe not going to share that picture of me playing in the park with my kids or something. I suppose these days, that's
well,
leads us on to
yeah.
I suppose there is like grey area now, but you're in different mindsets. So on Facebook, I'm thinking in one way, and on LinkedIn, I'm thinking a different way.
You're in different mindsets, but I mean, again, it probably depends on who your target audience is, because a lot of small business owners use Facebook a lot with things like groups and interacting in groups with other small business owners, and it can be hugely powerful through advertising. Don't get me wrong, but for example, if you were trying to target, let's say, HR managers, when they go home at the end of the day, they don't want to be bombarded on Facebook with information about HR. They just don't want that on there. They're there to switch off, to zone out. So you've got to, you've got to assess it dependent on who your actual audience is that you're trying to target.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And I suppose on a related point, and I suppose we've kind of almost touched on it, but I mean, if obviously we've said now, and I suppose we've established that you don't need to be on all platforms. And for those listening and watching in, when we say you don't need to be on all platforms, it doesn't mean you don't protect your brand. So, for example, if you're John Lewis, Tesco and stuff, maybe they're not, I don't know, maybe they're not on TikTok, but it doesn't mean they don't go on and register the name Tesco or John Lewis. Because to use an example, in the early days, I used to be very involved in an organisation called Positive About MS, basically to help people with multiple sclerosis take a positive approach. And at the time, we were on Facebook, Insta. I made sure that the word, so basically, if you go into any social media channel, type in the word Positive About MS, you'll find us. However, 10 years ago when we started it, on Instagram, no one wanted to take a selfie in the wheelchair or in the scooter or at the hospital. They go like, no, I just don't want people to know. However, as we know, probably over the last 6 years or so, we've had this more inclusivity, more diversity. So people own that space. So now where Instagram is growing for us, we're kind of saying, well, we're not having to call ourselves Positive About MS 3.6493 or whatever it is. We've kept that name, even though we didn't use it 10 years ago. We protected the brand. So
really
I suppose my question to you is, if we're not going to be on all the platforms, which ones to be on and how do you select them? Because trends dictate which ones we might have to be on or what we think we might have to be on. But I know it's a bit of a mess there, but I kind of hand it over to you.
I know what you mean. I mean, it can be tricky as well because the next shiny thing is always looking at us, isn't it? But the key is probably one of the things I've already mentioned, which is audience. Which ones are your audience using? That's got to be your most important question. And you can do the research behind that. You can look at all the stats online. They're all accessible. The stats around the demographics, whether it comes to age and gender and interests, etc. You'll find all those stats online. And also going on the platforms yourself and just having a look around and a feel for, okay, are my competitors having any success on this particular channel? Are they getting lots of engagement from the right audience? That will give you a bit of an indication that if they are, then I probably can too. So your audience, where your competitors are having success, and then also the platform itself and what you can bring to that platform. So, for example, Instagram, I've got a huge volume of use now, but Instagram isn't for every business because you've got to be visual. And in particular now on Instagram, you haven't just got to be visual, you've got to be on video. It's really leaning more towards becoming a video platform. So it's no longer just a case of posting a nice, pretty picture. You've also got to create video content. And for some businesses, that's really tricky. So you've got to assess, can I deliver the right level of content for that platform as well? If you look at things like TikTok, which is hugely on the rise, You know, it's kind of getting to a point where it's not one to be ignored. I think like
Yeah.
a year ago, we could say, you know, or TikTok, yeah, if you're targeting young people, use TikTok. If you're not targeting young people, you don't have to think about it. And I think now we're easing into that phase where it's like, actually, you probably are going to have to think about it, because it's not just young people on there anymore. But that means you've got to create TikTok videos. And for some businesses, that's just way beyond where they're at right now. And if you're not going to create the content that the platform needs, there's no point being on there. So, you know, you've got to assess that as well. Like, can I deliver the right level of content for that platform? So I think they're probably the three key things really. Is where's your audience? That's probably the most important thing. Are your competitors having success on that platform, or other businesses that target the same people as you? And can I create the right kind of content for that platform to have success on it? And those will help you decide, is the platform the right one for you? And then I suppose another one we could probably add on to the end of that is the platform itself and what it can give back to you. So, for example, Facebook pages at the moment are getting really, really low reach. You know, most businesses I speak to are just really struggling to get any kind of reach and engagement on Facebook right now. So is it worth putting that time and effort into something that's not going to give it back? Whereas if you gave that same time and effort to, say, Instagram instead, where engagement is still relatively high, you're going to get something back from it. So I think that's a kind of probably a fourth one to tag on there is, what is the platform giving back right now? Because I know Facebook they're really leading away, I think, from business pages for numerous reasons. Obviously, a big one being that they want businesses to pay to play on Facebook. Also, you know, they want to keep the platform free of too much free promo from businesses as well. So yeah, what is the platform actually going to give back to you? What you're giving to it in terms of time?
Okay, so that's good. I mean, I like that. It's funny you mentioned about the Facebook, because I've been saying it for quite a few years that, like in the early days, you could put anything on your Facebook page and it'll get reach, it'll get engagement, and if it means it's getting engagement, it means obviously people are engaging with your brand, and obviously that can lead on to macro conversions. However, what you're right in saying is that nowadays Facebook reach on pages is almost, I mean, unless you're a news article or like Sky News or a publisher or basically newsworthy information or memes or something, and I mean it's not easy creating all that type of content all the time. But you're absolutely right. I mean, it's just like a pay for play. It's almost like they want you to pay for the privilege. Where in the early days they wanted you to put your business on there. Come on, Facebook, it's free.
It's so easy. It's such a shame in some respects. You know, I've been delivering social media training for 11 and a half years now, nearly 12 years. And God, it used to be so easy. I could literally say to businesses, like, just put stuff out there and people will see it, you know, just be present. And now it's like, no, you can't just be present. You've got to be thinking about how to be present, but how to also get engagement and how to appeal to the algorithm and how to get your content seen. And it's just got really complicated, unfortunately, for marketers. Probably better for the users, in that users are being delivered more content that's applicable to them. But I think for marketers, it's like, it's just a constant minefield as to what you actually, you know, have to do to get your content seen now.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right, because it's good and bad, because I mean, as mentioned, early days you could put the content on. Now Facebook is saying like you're paying for the privilege, or to use your terms, you're pay for play. So which is kind of not fair, because it's been free for 10, 12 years anyway, hasn't it? So I mean, eventually you have to pay for something. But as marketers, I like the fact that it's getting complicated now and it's hard to reach, because we're getting more questions. You're getting more people saying, Sam, I've lost engagement, or Kaz, I want to sell this online, or how do you sell the Facebook ads? What is Facebook ads? And because of the way Facebook ads works, and because of us, obviously all this GDPR and the updates, it's hard to reach your target audience now. So we're getting even more questions also. It's almost like coming full circle, right? We're stuck. We're getting stuck. How do we do it right? Speak to the marketers and the social media people and see if they can help us. But I mean, just digressing slightly, what you said about TikTok, absolutely right. When I first saw TikTok, it was literally I mean, it may sound like it's not been a long time, probably 3 or 4 years ago, and people were doing the dances, weren't there?
All
They
dancing, I
did,
know.
they were doing a dance, or those people jumping out of a moving car, running, and then
Yeah,
jumping back. And I thought to myself, this is completely ridiculous. But
yeah.
then the content started. Now you're getting like, if you watch it, you'll be like, all parts of Dragon's Den will be like Dragon's Den part 1, 2, 3. You'll be watching them, or you'll be watching people talk about marketing. But that's the scroll feature. I mean, it's addictive. I mean, you can't help it because
100% addictive, yeah. And I mean, I think the great thing about TikTok, and it is so true, God, yeah. I mean, still when I deliver training and I suggest TikTok, people will be saying like, "Oh my God, you're not going to make me dance, are you?" And they think it's all about dancing and all that kind of thing. Like, no, you don't have to dance on TikTok anymore. It's fine. It's not all about dancing. Don't get me wrong. There's still a big part of it that is, but
oh yeah,
businesses you don't have to. But I remember when I first started delivering social media training and even talking to Twitter about Twitter to businesses, and they go, "Oh, isn't that just One Direction fans and Justin Bieber fans?" And in fact, yeah, I don't think even One Direction were around then, 12 years ago. So yeah, isn't it all just Justin Bieber fans on Twitter? And you're like, no, it's not. You know, there's another world on there that is completely separate to that. And I think it's the same with TikTok. And I've just started really with my TikTok journey, I guess you could call it. And I've only got about 5 videos on there, and I've got about 5 followers. I've not even promoted it. I've not even told anyone I'm on TikTok. I've just started sort of having a play around with it, really.
I'll class that as an exclusive for our podcast then.
There you go. Absolutely, yeah. It's yeah, you can be the first to go and find me on TikTok. And you know, I've got like 5 followers, and one of my videos has had 1,700 views. You know, and you just can't get that on many other platforms where you don't have many followers, but you can get loads and loads of views for your content. So it's hugely powerful in that respect. And definitely not one to be ignored anymore. I think we've all been a bit like, oh, I'll wait. And now it's like, you know what? It has been the #1 most downloaded app in 2022 and continues to be. And that is not something to be ignored. It's not just for kids anymore.
Yeah, no, I think the world of TikTok definitely has changed, and I think it's got no signs of stopping. It just seems to be going from strength to strength. But once again, it's that content creation stuff that you talked about. Which one do you prioritize? You need more marketers. You need more people to do it, and you need that. Because I suppose it's either going to be interesting or exciting. Your video on TikTok, it can't just be mundane. But it's it's a very. I mean, I suppose that takes us on, I suppose, to another related talking point, which would be, does any particular channel work better for certain sectors? I mean, we touched on before, I mean, I gave a small example about the chef, but in your experience, I mean, I know you said it's industry specific, and because you said you're in pretty much the B2B space, so you're going to be using these particular channels, so you've worked out that for yourself. I mean, for those listening, or people with their own businesses or working for businesses as digital marketing executives or social media people or whatever they might be doing, is there any particular channels that work better for certain sectors?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you know, it's probably worth doing your own research because obviously there's thousands of different sectors that we can't cover them all. But anything visual, anything where, you know, say it's photography or interiors or visually based products that people want to see before they buy, I think you have to then go and look at the visually focused platforms. So Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok is definitely a big one on that now as well, on the kind of the visual element. So anything that is a kind of, you would class as being a visual business that people want to see before they buy. You know, for example, if you're going to employ a photographer, you're going to look at what pictures they've done previously. You're not just going to go, oh, you're a photographer, fine, come along then. Whereas maybe with our type of business, they don't need to see anything visually. They just need to know that we know our stuff. So definitely for visual businesses, you're definitely looking at things like Instagram, Pinterest, and like I say, TikTok. Even though it's video based, you can create video of images. You know, you don't have to try and reinvent the wheel. If you've got loads of images, just turn them into a video. And then definitely, obviously, we've already covered B2B. B2B is 100% LinkedIn focus. And then you could add on other channels depending on what kind of industry you're in a B2B sector. So Twitter can be really useful for B2B and certainly for networking. And I think certainly for small business B2B, I find Instagram really, really valuable with that. Certainly for, you know, on the kind of the two sides of my business, where one side is going out and delivering training to sort of larger corporates, LinkedIn is the number one for me. But on the side where I work with smaller businesses through my membership, Instagram has been the most powerful one. So I think Instagram on a kind of a connecting with other small businesses is a really powerful tool. And yeah, if you're business to consumer, then you are probably looking more at Instagram, TikTok. We can't get away from it, but definitely TikTok as well. Depending on what you're selling, then probably Pinterest too. You know, Pinterest, the purchase commitment through Pinterest is really high compared to a lot of other platforms. You know, when people are going on searching on Pinterest, a lot of them do convert. So Pinterest is also a really important one if you are selling to consumers. But yeah, I mean, God, there's so many different industry sectors, isn't there? We could probably like do a whole day on, you know, which sector. So definitely do your own research. I mean, you know, the joy of Google is you could probably literally put into Google as a insert business sector, which social media platform should I be on? And the answer's probably on there for you, because there's just, you know, there's so much great content around it now. But do your research. I think that's the key really here, is do your own research for your industry sector to see which platforms are likely to deliver the best results.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I mean, I think you mentioned before, there's no point reinventing the wheel. Don't try to do your own research on it. The research is out there. The information is out there, because, I mean, like the question you just asked there, if you just type that into Google, Google would kind of say that this is who's on this, or there'll be either some like cliches. Like, I mean, the one I always remember is Pinterest is for rich American women. I always, for some reason, it's always been in my head, and I used to always think it was like a joke or something. But if you Googled it, you'll find that most of the people that are on Pinterest are women, and most of them are based in America. So that's kind of, but I mean, obviously, it's not exactly, that's not to say there's no one in the UK on it, but it was just like a bit of a throwaway comment. But once again, it kind of addresses your point. Do your research. If you know your customers are somewhere, and I think you mentioned before, your competitors are a good guide for that. Because if your competitors are on there, then that means there must be customers on there as well. So it gives you an idea. But that's good. I mean, I suppose we've got to a point where we've kind of established the different types of networks. We've talked about which ones you might want to be on, how to do your research, and then I suppose the question comes down to what you mentioned before, which is like your third C, if you like, was around content. When it comes to content, I mean, it's probably the hardest bit of anything, to be honest. How do you create different types of content, not just for one channel, but multiple channels? Because you mentioned before, there's a lot of work to do. If someone said to me, Kaz, just do content, I mean, you don't have the time. You're in training sessions, or you're speaking somewhere, or you're doing podcasts, or whatever it might be doing. You're doing something. So to create content for that one channel is hard enough. But if you're a business and you've got multiple channels, I mean, is there not quite a cheat or something? Is there how do you go about creating the content for each platform?
Oh, well, this is like the $1 million question, isn't it? Because you know, the ideal world answer is yes, have completely different content on every single platform that you're on, so that people have a reason to follow you on each of them, because they're getting something different from all of them. Or, you know, if you relate it to who the audience is on that platform, like we've got a slightly different audience on Instagram to LinkedIn, say, so let's create two pieces of different content. So that would be like the ideal world answer. The real world answer is, though, that most, particularly smaller businesses, just don't have the capacity to be creating different content across all the different platforms.
Absolutely.
You know, so again, you've got to ask yourself, what capacity do I have? You know, if you've got a big social media team, then of course you can be creating lots of different content for the different platforms. However, if you are just one person managing your own social media or managing the social media for a business, then creating different content for each platform is a full-time job and nigh on impossible. So don't give yourself the task to do that. The way I look at it is, if I have the same audience across all the platforms I'm on and I'm sharing the same content on all of them, then that is just consolidating that content to them. The more times we see something, the more it sinks in. So I just think of it that way, rather than, oh God, what if they follow me on all of them and now they're seeing it everywhere? That's the good thing. We want people to see us everywhere. We want people to remember us. We want people to remember the things that we're saying. So I think it's actually a good thing for them to be seeing the same content more than once. Because there's so much content out there anyway. They probably don't even remember your content from another platform. You know, I think we kind of put too much ego on it sometimes and think that people are paying loads of attention to our content, when if we think about it, we're just a tiny little drop in a massive ocean of content. So yeah, don't get too hung up on it. I think repurposing content across platforms makes life a lot easier. You know, for all I've just signed on to TikTok, I haven't got the capacity to be creating Instagram reels and then TikTok videos. So I just download my Instagram reels and I upload them to TikTok. Not ideal. Far better to have completely different content on the two of them, but they're getting views, you know, they're being seen. And it's either, for me, it's either a case of don't join TikTok because I haven't got time to do it and have no presence on there, or join TikTok and reshare my Instagram reels to TikTok and have somewhere that I now am reaching a new audience. So the other thing you can do is stagger it. So let's say, for example, you share a piece of content on LinkedIn on the Monday, maybe you could share it on Instagram on the Thursday. So it's not delivered on the same day. That's another nice way to do it, is to kind of stagger your content on different days to different platforms, or even different weeks. You know, you could have a bit of a cycle where the content changes month to month if it's not timely information. But yeah, I mean, for my business, occasionally there will be differing content. So for example, I do a lot of polls on LinkedIn. They don't translate as well over to Instagram, so I just wouldn't include them on Instagram. Or sometimes you just have something to say, but you don't have a picture to go with it. So I'll just put it on LinkedIn, but I won't put it on Instagram because I've got no visual to accompany it. So there will be times, I think, you know, where we all have those, actually, I'm just going to put this on LinkedIn, or this can just go on Twitter only. I think overall, reduce the stress, you know, because like I say, if you're sharing it across all of them, and even if the same people are seeing all of it, you're really getting into their head, and that's always a good thing when it comes to marketing.
No, I think you mentioned quite a few really good points there. I mean, I think what I really liked the idea was, of course, we need to repurpose content, and whether you are part of a big business or literally a one-person band, I think the same problem occurs. Like, even if you're part of a big business, they don't throw loads of money at you and loads of staff at you and say, just take your time, do what you can. You're still under that. You're still under the cost. You're still under the pressure to deliver. So yes, repurposing content's good, and I've seen it many a times. You know, where you're watching a video on Facebook, and towards the end, it kind of has that TikTok logo like comes up just to say that it's been taken from TikTok. And I suppose we look and think, oh yeah, that's from TikTok, but we don't kind of necessarily change our mind about it. We just kind of we don't have a different opinion on it, or suddenly think, well, it's not worthy of us or something. But I think what you mentioned about changing the order would be really good, because sometimes I've done it. I've been on Instagram, I've seen something, then I've been on Facebook from the same person and saw it, and then maybe I've been on another platform and I was just, oh, this is kind of duplicated content. I still liked the content, and maybe that's why the algorithm's showing it to me again on the different platform. But the problem I find is that I'm like, well, I've just seen this, so I don't really need to give it another like or engage with it. But if someone did what you're saying and changed the, if you're like week 1 becomes week 4, week 4 becomes week 2, and like you say, as long as it's not timely, then that's good. Because, and I think what you once again, you mentioned another good point was that we assume as soon as we put it out, everybody's seen it. Oh, well, I can't put it out again now, everybody's seen that. And then you look at the number of views and you look at the amount of people in the UK or the amount of people on the audience, think, well, so, okay, in that particular target market, there's 30,000 people. They're all on Facebook, and 12 people have seen my video. So really, you don't, even if you repurposed it, it wouldn't make a difference. I know we've repurposed it, but the audience don't know that. But sometimes they just like a nice reminder. Like it's like watching a goal, a football goal from years ago. You don't mind watching it again. Absolutely. It's not like, so I think some of the points you mentioned are very, very valid. You want to make it easy for yourself.
Yeah, that's the key. Don't make social media the biggest stress in your business. I think that's the key thing here.
No, absolutely. Okay, so I suppose, I mean, let's kind of give everyone, I suppose, some really good ideas about how they can select the social media channel, which ones they should be being on, which particular channels might work better for different sectors, different content for different platforms, and maybe cross-purposing and obviously some of the things we spoke about. But now, coming up that I've read about, and I suppose you'll know very well, I've read about something called Planet Social Media. This is obviously something that you're obviously very much involved in, and obviously something that you're obviously it's part of what you do. So can you give us a bit more? Do you want to give us a bit more information?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been training businesses in social media for, as I say, like 11 and a half years now. And it was when I was on maternity leave with my third daughter that I kind of had this idea that so much of what I was doing was working with the larger corporates and going in and delivering training. And I was kind of missing out the group that I love, which is small business owners. You know, I think they have a huge passion for growing and learning. So that was one element to it. And then another element was not just them, but also, you know, people in marketing teams, etc., who just want quick information that they have access to. And so I kind of came up with the idea for Planet Social Media, which is a membership site where the members have access to a huge range of videos. I think there's over 70 on there now. And I add a new video in every couple of weeks. So there's a new one going in today, actually, which is all about how to align social media with your branding. So essentially, it's like this huge learning, what would be the word, kind of like a huge consortium of social media learning where you can go in, you can search for the kind of content that you need to learn about. And then it is on there in very nice, quick video format. I'm all for kind of the 10-15 minute videos that give you that instant knowledge you need at that time for your business. So yeah, that's the primary purpose of Planet Social Media, really, is to help people learn quickly in their own time when they need to. They've got access to all this information. So that's one of the elements of membership. Then beyond that as well, we have every month we do a content planning session together as members. So we meet online, we spend 90 minutes planning our content for the following month. So around the first 20 minutes, I discuss with them what that involves and how they could, you know, give them tips and advice on how to plan their content for the month. I give them a template to do it. And then we kind of just sit in silence and commit that time to planning content for the next month. And it makes a huge difference because, you know, by the middle of May, they've got all their content planned for June, and by the middle of June for July, and so on. So it keeps their content rolling, because that's one thing I found a lot of members said, you know, I'm learning all this stuff, I just haven't got time to create the content, or, you know, I find myself getting lost with time. So I'm like, commit this time and get it done. And then I give them an action every week to take as well, completely optional, of course, but I just give them a little nudge every week and say, why don't you try this week on social media? So they're kind of the three main elements of Planet Social Media. We also have live masterclasses as well every couple of months, focusing on a particular topic area for 2 hours. And yeah, Planet Social Media actually started just before the pandemic. So in February 2020 was when I launched Planet Social Media. It was the end of February. So it was like 3 weeks before we went into lockdown. Everyone suddenly pivoted and went online. So I'm so glad that I got ahead of the curve, got it all out there before actually, you know, everyone was like, we need an online solution. So I must have had some insight from China or something. But yeah, it's been amazing, actually. It's you know, it's become the biggest part of my business. And it's so amazing just to see the members grow and to see what they're doing on social media on the back of what they've learned, and, you know, and how I can help them through that. So yeah, and it's only £29 a month, so it's a nice low cost way to keep building your social media knowledge, because let's face it, it is always changing. You know, I wish it kept the same sometimes, but yeah, the fact that it's always changing means we do need to keep up to date. So yeah, that is my Planet Social Media.
Okay, so if people want to get involved, do you need any fancy software? Did you mention online and stuff, or is it on Zoom? I mean, how do they access it?
No, it's all easy enough. So on Planet Social Media, all of the content is pre-recorded. So you just go on and watch the videos. You just sign up, log in, and then you've got access to all of the videos on there. Any live masterclasses we do through something called Live Webinar. So it is actually just a link. They don't even need to download anything.
Okay.
So yeah, there's no downloads involved. It's all just, as long as you've got internet access, that's all you need for Planet Social Media.
All right, good stuff. And for those who are listening in, you can I think the website's planetsocialmedia.co.uk. Is that right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's the
Okay.
one.
And if anyone wants to speak to Sam directly, you can obviously go to her social media channels. I think for those of you who've been listening intently will know that she's quite active on Instagram. So on Instagram, she's at Sam Flynn SM. That's Sierra Mike at the end. Obviously, it stands for social media, but it would have made more sense if I'd said social media. But yeah, so you can go to at Sam Flynn. You can also and they can also email you if people are a bit more
absolutely.
want to keep it formal. So it's sam@samflynn.co.uk. So so they can contact you in a variety of different ways there, and obviously you can get a lot more about it. And if anyone's feels the need to get in touch with me, please feel free to do so. I'm on LinkedIn. Just find me there. I'm Kaz Lalji. And just I suppose coming up to like the final point, but just what does the rest of 2022 look like for you, Sam?
Well, lots of in-person training, which is lovely, as I said earlier. So, getting back to normality with social media training. And I'm kind of leading into helping people reduce their phone use as well, which sounds like a bit of a paradox when it comes to social media, but I'm a big believer in the power of social media, and I'm also a big believer in that it's stealing a lot of our time. So just helping people understand how to use social media and our phones in particular in a more time conservative manner. So just a slight digression really from what I've done previously, but something that I've become quite passionate about recently. So there's things in the pipeline for that as well.
All right, so you do realise now, Sam, if I go through Media City and I see you walking past me with your phone in your hand, I'm going to say, "Hey, Sam, put your phone away."
Now, when I'm out and about, I'm thinking I can't look at my phone. It's not about never looking at your phone, though. I have to always caveat
No.
it's just about reducing the use. So if you have to look at your phone, that's fine.
I think you just want everyone to have quite a bit more me time and family time and social time rather than
exactly. I think our phones are taking a fulfilled life away from us, and that's exactly that. Just being present on social media, but not mindlessly scrolling, which unfortunately the apps are designed to make us do.
Absolutely. I suppose that's what makes them so addictive. We can't help ourselves, can we?
It is, absolutely.
But I know you've got other things coming up very soon, Sam. I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really, really appreciate your time. And hopefully we'll chat soon. I'll bump into each other when we're out and about.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Kaz.
Cheers, Sam. Take care.
You've been watching the Kaz Lalji Digital Marketing Podcast. Thanks for joining us, and remember to subscribe to learn about our latest content.